Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm gonna give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
What if I told you that most of the modern-day self-help advice you've been hearing could actually make you worse? The key to a better life isn't about feel-good gimmicks that sound catchy. The Mentally Stronger podcast gives you access to a licensed therapist who shares science-backed tools that will actually change your life. Hi, I'm Amy Morin, psychotherapist, mental strength trainer, and international best-selling author. In each episode, we cover research-backed strategies, like how to stop relying on willpower and start creating habits for lasting change, and the 5 mental strength-building exercises you can do from your couch. I also speak to world-class experts like Dr. Nicole Kane, who shares how to permanently heal anxiety by addressing the root cause. With over 200 episodes in our catalog, this podcast is for you if you're ready to crush self-doubt, conquer challenges, and become stronger than ever with therapist-approved strategies that can change your life. Listen to Mentally Stronger with therapist Amy Morin wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, y'all. I know this is sort of last minute, but I forgot about the date of this incident until it was posted as an anniversary reminder by the Metro Nashville Police. Today marks 28 years since a terrible and tragic bank robbery happened here in Nashville. To honor those involved, one in particular, I wanted to re-release this episode. This will be released late in the day on May 14th, Thursday, and expect a new episode at the normal time tomorrow. The weather was ideal on May 14th, 1998, in Nashville, Tennessee. At around 8 a.m., the temperature was 72 degrees. It was sunny out. The Regions Bank at 2700 Franklin Pike had just opened up, and it was business as usual. Everything seemed like it was shaping up to be a fine day. But business, and that fine day, was about to be disrupted by a very violent bank robber. Welcome back to another episode of Music City 911. All right, so we're live here with Music City 911. This is kind of the first time that we're doing a live episode like this, so kind of forgive us as we're going. I'd like to, first off, before we get into anything else, thank you, Trent, here at Spread the Positive Studios for having us on and letting us live stream like that. That's a big thing. If you haven't yet, which I hope you have, go ahead and like and follow Spread the Positive on Facebook or Instagram, any other type of social media like that.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all, man. Pumped to have you in here. This is really, really cool.
Yeah, good. Glad you're having us.
Yes, sir.
And also we have in here the guest for the show today is Terry Burnett. I was going to just kind of let you have at it, kind of give us a little background about yourself, Mr. Burnett, and where you're from, where you grow up, kind of how you grew up. just basic info like that. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. I lived there till I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, my parents moved to Mississippi, north central Mississippi. So I basically grew up in Mississippi, which is very rural, but a very good small town, probably less than 1,000 people. So I had a really good upbringing. I had to do everything right because my parents knew everybody there, so they kind of made sure that we were going to do things right. I graduated from Coffeyville High School in 1979. My dreams, I guess the only 2 dreams I had growing up was being in the Marine Corps and then being a police officer and being a canine handler. So when I graduated from high school, that's what I did. I started off, I joined the Marine Corps. Stayed in there, did my time in there, came out, do a few other little odds and ends. Went to school for a little bit, but I knew in my heart that I wanted to be a police officer. So my parents talked me into moving up here to Nashville and start, trying to apply to different police departments, and did that in 1986. I was hired on with the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, started the academy session 15, and kind of thing started, kind of took off for me from there. I was doing the only 2 things that I've ever wanted to do, so I feel real fortunate there.
Yeah, that's really cool. In 1986, man, that was a little bit ago.
Yeah, a while ago.
Let's see, I'm guessing I was about in the 1st grade.
I was born.
Yeah.
That's my birthday year. Sorry, didn't have to go there.
No, it's been a while ago. Sometimes I look back at it and it seems like a lifetime, and then other times I look at it and it just seems like everything passed so fast, and it seems like yesterday.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Being up at dispatch for 22 years, I look back at some of the first calls that I took, and it feels like it was just yesterday.
Just yesterday.
Yeah. So what year, it was 1986, how did you transition from being just a normal patrol officer into being a canine handler?
Well, it's like I say, that being a handler was my dream, but I knew I had to spend my time in patrol. And like I say, after graduating the academy, I worked different sectors around town of patrol, worked patrol for a little over 10 years. And my wife and I knew if I was ever going to be able to go to canine, we had to have a house.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in apartments. I'd done security in apartments, and we got lucky and was able to get a house. And not too long after that, they had put in for an opening canine. I went ahead and put my paperwork in to get transferred there, and got very lucky and got over there probably in 1997, I believe. I went to canine.
Okay. So you did a pretty good bit of time on the streets there.
On the streets, yeah, in patrol, and I got to work some good sectors. I worked, some of our areas, I know people local know the J.C. Napier, the University Court areas, and got a lot of real quick, fast experience working in those particular zones.
Yeah, you will. Those, they're still, even to this day, they're still probably our busiest and most dangerous.
But it's like I say, I worked, enjoy my time in patrol, but like I say, I always had that dream of being able to get to canine.
Mm-hmm.
So
just kind of transitioning into the whole canine aspect. Was Aron your first dog that you had, or?
Well, when I first went to canine, they had a dog over there that somebody had donated and said the dog was just extremely vicious and they couldn't do anything with him. And his name was Charlie, beautiful German Shepherd. And I worked with him. I started training with him and worked with him probably for about 6 weeks. And I never saw any of that viciousness in him. He was just a really lovable dog. And so they ended up having to wash him out, and that broke my heart because I'd really gotten attached to him. Mm-hmm. And so we decided they wouldn't let me adopt him, but they would let my mother-in-law adopt.
So you kept him there close by.
So we ended up keeping him at our house. Yeah. It was our dog, and he ended up being more my wife's dog. He fell in love with her, and everywhere she went, he was right there with her. But then, like I say, once they washed him out, my next dog that they got me was the first dog that I completed training with, which was Aron. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've worked 5 dogs. I've worked patrol/drug dogs. I worked patrol/explosive dogs, and then I've just worked patrol dogs. So I've kind of been around as far as that part.
Yeah, that's a really well-versed training there going from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Aron, what would he be classified as?
He was strictly just a patrol dog.
Okay.
Because at that time, we weren't doing any cross training.
Yeah.
It was either, we had our dogs, and then like Vice, they had their drug dogs. So there really wasn't any cross training. So he was strictly patrol.
Yeah, so that's something that kind of come up new during all that years ago was when we had the cross-trained canines. Like used to, everybody would say, get me a canine or get me a drug dog.
Yeah.
And then it changed up to where it was just get me a cross-trained if you got one.
Yeah.
The training you actually have to go through with the patrol dog, what would you have to put the dog through? Were you part of that training? I guess you are.
Yeah. Of course, when we get our dogs, when we get them in, we get them from vendors, and they're green dogs. And the only thing we know for sure is that they do have a prey drive and that they do have an aggression level. And so we start out from ground zero with the dogs, teaching them basically what to do and how to do. And it's the patrol end of it is about 16 to 18 weeks. And so you start everything from ground level, teaching them how to track, how to do apprehensions, biting holds, to clearing buildings, things like that.
Yeah, the clearing the buildings, that's what, I mean, granted, from my knowledge, of course, I'm not a police officer, never have been, but from me up there at dispatch, we kind of know when to ask for K9, clearing out buildings, depending on the circumstances, obviously, if it's a business or something like that, and they've kind of transitioned. I know there for a while, they didn't do any residences, but they've went back to that now. And, stolen cars, things like that, any type of violent
criminal situation, then our dogs can be used.
Yeah.
In which, no doubt in my mind, these dogs so many times have saved handlers and backup officers that would have walked into things that they really didn't want to walk into.
Yeah.
So that is a real good, I hate to call them a tool, but they're a tool that we use, but a tool that we as handlers get awful close to. And
oh, yeah.
We love the dogs.
Because you live with them 24/7.
24/7, 7 days a week. And, that was one of the things that they told us when we went to K9. Are we aware that that's what you're going to have to do? And how is your family with that? Because if everybody's not on board with it, it's never going to work. So they become part of the family.
All right. So getting into the incident that we were kind of focusing on today with Aron and the Regions Bank robbery. Trent, I'll go ahead and let you play the first clip to, we got a call in. This is from the radio traffic when we were first putting it out. Just go ahead and play that and we'll kind of go from there.
Original cars, especially West, got a code 1000 in progress, 2700 Franklin Pike, 2700 Franklin Pike off Ferry Road at Regions Bank. Stand by for description time, 8:38.
Code 1000, that's our code for bank robbery. It still is. They've changed around a few of the codes, but code 1000 still bank robbery. They're waiting on the description there. I was going to play the 911 call that we got in that you provided there also, but the tape hiss, and when I say tape hiss, back then everything was recorded on tape. The tape hiss plus the person that was calling was whispering so low, I even tried cleaning it up. I couldn't get that cleaned up enough to where you could hear what they were saying. So that's a call that's put out on all air. So all the radio channels that we have is put out bank robbery. So if anybody's close by, they know to go on it. When you hear something like that go out, what's your thoughts? What starts through your mind?
My immediately is, did they leave in a car? Did they see a car? Did they run to a certain location or whatever? Because I know that that's going to matter a lot as far as what we can do as a K9 unit.
Yeah.
And then on this particular situation, when they did say the suspect ran out the back door toward the wood lines, okay, that's a K9 situation. So that's when I checked en route to that location. I was a little ways from there, but by the time I got there, they had gotten a really good perimeter set up. And like I said, of course, your adrenaline starts pumping a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And with my dog, he had not had an apprehension yet.
Okay.
So he was brand new. He had not had an apprehension. So, part of us going through your mind that you got to take care of him. He's going to take care of me. And, hoping that he's able to apprehend this guy, this bank robber, is what's going through your mind.
Yeah. And plus the fact, I'm going back on the dispatch end too. You've got the difference between a code 1000 in progress and then a code 1000 alarm.
Yeah.
And I know in a little bit of the audio, I heard a lot of people say still 53. So that the code 1000 must have been kind of a newish code back then. Regardless of that, an alarm is, we're going to go out there as fast as we can, police, but at the same time, it's not quite the same. There's a difference to it when you hear there's someone actually robbing a bank, because if an alarm, those can be false all the time. But if someone says there's someone here, that's 100% accurate. That's what's happening. Go ahead and play clip 2, and we'll go from there.
Well, I'm en route to it. 10412, thank you. 14 items, over number, I'm en route. 10414, and our cars be advised, I'm getting 83 call now at 2612 Franklin Pike at McDonald's. Got an older male black shooting a gun, jeans jacket, said he's around the back. Call 10, see if you got Air 1 and get the canine right over. 10-4, suspect's going to be a... Sorry, I'm already en route. 656 10-4, and suspect's going to be a male in a green jacket, possibly Laotian.
Lately, I've been more intentional about what I wear day to day, leaning into pieces that feel easy, comfortable, and still put together. It just makes getting dressed simpler. Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are clean, and everything just works without needing to overthink it. Quince has all the wardrobe staples for spring. Think 100% European linen shorts and shirts from $34. Lightweight, breathable, and comfortable, but still look put together. And clean 100% Pima cotton tees with a softness that has to be felt. Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen, so you're getting premium materials without the markup. It's starting to get pretty warm here in Tennessee, and I've got some of the 100% European linen shorts on the way that I'm sure I'll be wearing all summer. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/MC911 for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/MC911 for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/MC911. All right, so that there, we heard you checking route to it.
Yeah.
You were 656 on the call.
656, that was my car number, and checking in route to it.
So our K9 units now, they're in the 5200s, so or 5300s, I think. Get those mixed up, them in traffic sometimes now. But so you're en route to it. We hear the dispatcher talk about an 83 Paul. 83 Paul is shots fired. That's our code for shots fired.
Yeah.
And it was back behind the McDonald's. A little bit later on, we'll probably find out something about that. But you're responding to the call and us up at dispatch when you got a bank robbery and then you get a shots fired right there at the same place pretty much. That ups everything. I mean,
everything probably 100%.
Yeah.
It just everything. It's the adrenaline level, the desire, and trying to get to that location safe, because, the sooner you can get there. And the thing we were lucky about that day is that it happened right outside of Berry Hill, which is a little small police department within Davidson County. Mm-hmm. And they were right down the street when that bank robbery happened. So they were able to get on the scene and get some good information before I got there.
Yeah, and that's actually inside their city limits. And in fact, that's a good little segue, because the next clip we got is Berry Hill coming over the radio talking about it too.
Berry Hill to west. Berry Hill, go ahead. 10-4, the 2700 Franklin, that's not the bank in Kroger's, that's Regions Bank on Franklin Pike, and I believe our units are behind the McDonald's on Franklin Pike. They believe that subject is in the woods there. They believe he is in the woods shot when he came out.
So that's you again saying that you're en route out there. Where do you remember where you were coming from?
That particular time, I was coming from over in West Nashville. I was over off of Robertson Road, which was still quite a ways.
That's about for a normal person, 10, 12-minute drive, I guess, something like that.
And it just happened to be, there was just, that particular morning, there was just two canine handlers working the whole city. And the other handler was also a ways off, and then I was a way off on the other side of the county. But like I say, a normal deal is probably 10, 15 minutes to get to that location.
Yeah. And you being one of two in the county, that's you have to cover. I think Metro is 590 something, or 560 square miles, something like that.
533 square miles.
Yeah,
So
it's
a lot of area.
Yeah, it's a lot of area to cover. Granted, the kind of standard thing to do, and we'll kind of get into that too, is that once the primary officers get there on the scene, they can set up a perimeter. That way they can hold it until y'all get there, and then y'all can get in from there. Let's go ahead and get into the next clip there, clip number 4.
574, we're on the corner and behind Shoney's. A witness saw him go in the woods right here. Where you at, Tay? Okay, 574, be advised that the witness is saying he's armed with a Glock. He had shot himself once in the foot.
All right, so the witnesses there, they said that he shot himself. Now, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what happened with that part of it. I mean, you may know now, but if it was just him bad handling of the gun or...
to be honest with you, I don't think it was ever really determined that he actually did shoot himself in the foot. I know that he did discharge his weapon. I don't know if it was trying to intimidate the officers or whatever that were coming on the scene or what. But I never really found out for sure if he did actually shoot himself in the foot.
Yeah, so with that being said, with the whole shooting part, the description of the suspect, for you as a canine handler, what is the importance of something like that?
The importance is a lot of time when you start on a track in some of these areas, you have a lot of people around. And your dog is going to pick up on the freshest track. Once you start him tracking, he's going to pick up on the freshest track. So that description, you get into the woods where there could be other people and you see this person, you want to have some idea that your dog is going after the right person. So it's very important to get a good description of the suspect.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and play clip 5 and we'll move from there too.
Okay, the suspect's going to be a male, possibly Laotian, green jacket, mustache, glasses, tan pants.
542, the people in the bank advised the mustache appeared fake, so don't count on the mustache.
656.
Vivian and Ray, 663, if he'll start that way in case we need to.
He just advised you he's en route.
All right, so there you are again asking for the other canine unit to get en route, and kind of going back on the same thing we talked a little bit before. In a situation like that, well, any of them really, why would you need 2 out there? I mean, I know from being up there, but most people listening probably don't know why you would need 2 canines out there.
Well, the importance of that is having another canine handler there that if something does happen, that he knows how to deal with the dog. Mm-hmm. And, of course, if I went down, then that dog is going to pretty much do everything he can to protect me.
Yeah.
So if you've got another handler there, he has the mental tools that he needs to have to be able to deal with that dog.
And also knows the commands and everything going on.
Knows everything like that. And plus, too, we do so many training tracks together. We know how each team works. We know what the dog does when he gets close into. If I had a track with Devery's dog, Devery Moses was the other handler who was there. We had trained together. If I had backed him up on a track, then when we started getting in close to a suspect, I would know how that dog reacts. Because like I say, we do so many of them together, and then it's just like with Devery. When we got into a location and he sees how my dog's reacting, he knows, okay, I got to pay more attention to what's going on because that dog is reacting the way he's seen him do in training tracks. So it's important to have another handler there. And also it's kind of a comfort level knowing that the person that's backing you up, if something happens to me, he knows how to take care of my dog.
Yeah, so and vice versa, yeah.
Exactly. It's just a comfort level you have there.
Well, let's go ahead and play clip 6 and we'll talk more about the rest of it here in a second.
656-97.
All right, so that was you checking on the scene. A real quick clip there. You're there on the scene. Bank robberies just happened. You got Berry Hill Police there on the scene. You got Metro Police, several units there on the scene. They've got a decent little perimeter set up because they got people up on the interstate. And for all y'all listening, if you hadn't joined yet, join the discussion group on Facebook. I'll post a picture on there and some of those other social media of the area that I was talking about. Up on the interstate, there's from the McDonald's and Regions Bank, and granted it's changed now because there's new buildings there and everything. But back then there was a big old wooded area separating the back parking lot from the McDonald's and the Regions Bank, and there was a little nursery over there on the side. Then you had a pretty good sized wooded area, and I'd say probably about a 20-foot incline up to the interstate right there, right?
Yeah.
And it's steep up that way too. So there's a decent little perimeter set up. What's your first thing coming on the scene? What are you trying to assess and do?
My first thing that I'm going to do is get with the person that last saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get an area. He's going to say he went this direction, or I saw somebody running this direction. So, and they were able to get that information from other people, civilians and people that were there on the scene. So I knew the general area that he ran into. And once we've done that, I get a clarification again on the description of the suspect. Once I have that and my backup's there and ready, I'll go ahead and let the units on the scene knowing that we're going to start the track, and we started the track then. Yeah,
and at that point, there's been command set up. I can't remember if Car 10 or 103 was the one that set up command on it. That's the sergeant was on the scene, lieutenant that was on the scene or about to get on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
He set up command, and the reason we do command on really any police fire, incident like that, it's so we'll cut down on the radio traffic. And the radio systems we have now, you can't talk over each other. The dispatcher can talk over an officer, but the officers can't talk over each other. But back then, it was a free-for-all. I mean, you could have 3 or 4 people keying up at the same time, and at least with a command set up like that, you'd have to go through the command, or theoretically supposed to anyway.
Yeah.
Go through the command, and then the command tells dispatch or assigns whatever. So it hopefully cuts down on some of the radio traffic. We'll see real quick that it didn't, but
yeah, but that was what it was meant to do.
Yeah.
It's like, say, I can remember back before we started all setting up commands. If you put out that an officer was in trouble, you had officers from every part of the county out there, and so the radio traffic, you didn't know who was where, or what they were getting ready to do. So, once we got to the point where we started setting up command, it's like you say, it made things a little bit easier as far as communicating.
Mm-hmm. And just like you said, when we have Code 5000, now that's another thing I was going to ask you, because you were there back then. I know when I first started, Code 5000 was still kind of a new thing for an officer in distress, officer down, whatever like that. Used to, it was 1055.
Yeah.
When I first started on, they said that you might still have some older officers that'll say 1055. And I had, they're pretty rarely, but I've had a couple of them that was saying 1055.
Yeah. You've used that radio signal for years and years, and then you add in the stress of an officer being hurt or down. There were some times that I was around that I heard 1055 after we'd gone to the Code 5000.
Yeah, it happened. Well, let's go ahead and play. I think we're on to clip 7 now, right?
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and play that.
Command, this is 423 Adam. Command, go ahead. Shots fired! Shots fired!
Shots fired. All cars keep that clear. What's your 20?
Shots fired over here. Where are you?
Cars keep the air clear.
Oh, behind McDonald's, keep the air clear.
McDonald's.
Officer down!
Officer down.
Officer down!
10-4.
Yes, 47, officer down!
47 in right.
Oh, somebody, you got it! The 47 over, we got officer down!
Got him in right.
47! 423, shut out there! We got one up here! Go down the station!
They got shot at McDonald's. All cars keep the air clear.
It was the 47 over here, I got an officer down!
47 is in red. All cars keep the air clear.
We got a K9 hit also!
10-4, K9 hit also.
All right, so that you've gone in the woods at this point. You sent your dog in. Walk me through what happened.
Okay, like I said, they gave me a last location that the suspect was seen running. So that's where I'll take my dog. And I've got a 15-foot lead that's hooked to a harness to him. And we'll start the track there. As soon as I went to that location, Aron picked up a track.
Mm-hmm.
And Dabry was behind me. And I noticed as he was going toward the woods, there was a fence line there. And he started throwing his head up. And that's kind of a signal that he's air scenting. The person could possibly be close. He could be 3 yards from you. He could be 20 yards. But when that dog starts smelling him, not the track that was on the ground, when he starts smelling your suspect, a lot of times we'll do is called air scenting. He'll throw that head up. And I remember telling Devery, when he threw that head up, I told Devery, I said, man, watch, because he's close. He's close. Well, it's like I say, I think he had kind of a pre-planned getaway deal. And he had cut a hole in the fence. And, of course, my dog had pulled up to that hole. And I remember telling Devery, just keep an eye out because it was real thick beyond that hole. And so I shortened up on that lead for me and him to go through it. And as Aron went through it, I started kind of bent over to go in with him. I was right behind him holding the lead. Mm-hmm. Well, that's when the suspect, which I didn't realize probably wasn't maybe even 10 yards from it, was so much brush and
real thick in there. And when he started shooting, I still had a hold of the lead, and I tried to pull my dog back out because we couldn't see where it was coming from. And my deal was, okay, we know he's here. I got to get him out. And as I stepped back, when he had cut the hole in the fence, he didn't cut the bottom part. And I started trying to back out, and then that's when he was firing, just continuously. That's when I got hit in the foot. And about the same time I got hit in the foot from his shot in the foot, my foot caught on the bottom piece, and I fell backwards. And one thing you have to understand about this particular dog, he was a big dog, a big, strong dog. I think the last time I took him to bed, he weighed like 105 pounds, but he was very solid. And when the shooting started, that was his job to run toward the gunfire, and he ran toward it. And as I was falling back, the lead popped out of my hands. And so I immediately started trying to call him back to me then, but I could not tell how far back up in the woods he was. But like I say, I got out of there. I was trying to get stood back up. But like I say, I've been hit in the foot, and I had bullet fragments that had gone into my back part of my belt. Mm-hmm. So, I could tell, that wasn't feeling too good. But I remember trying to get up off the ground. You start thinking, I got to do something. So the only thing I knew to do at that time, since I couldn't get up, was continue rolling back and forth. And I kept waiting to get hit again. Fortunately, I had another officer Art Danner, and he put himself at great risk at that particular point to run over and help me stand up, and got back to cover. And that's when the suspect was continuing to fire. The officers were returning fire. I had returned fire. Everybody there was returning fire. And the whole time, it's like I say, I don't know if you listen to that clip, it's just a real quick deal, but you can hear me hollering foos. And that's basically telling my dog to come back to me. And for just a short time, he did, and then I kept hollering it, and I noticed something off to the right coming out of the woods, and I saw him Aron come stumbling out of the woods, and it was just, at first it didn't register in my mind what had happened to him, but I noticed he was pushing himself back toward me, because he couldn't move his front legs. And I kept hollering at him, and the suspect was continuing to shoot. And I don't know how many rounds he took with him, to do this particular job, which is so unusual. Most guys are going to go in there with a gun that may work or may not work, but this guy had made plans for what he was going to do. And when he got a little bit further out of the woods, I was able to, crawl up to him, and I wanted to get him back to behind the trees there. But I noticed a patrol car was driving up to me, even with all the shooting still going on, and that was Officer Brian Tomlin. He was driving, crouched down behind his dashboard, and another one that put themselves at great risk to run and, drive that car up in front and put that car between us and the suspect.
I was able to get my dog loaded up. And, fortunately, on one end, there was a vet, Berry Hill Animal Clinic, which was just down, half a mile from where we were.
Yeah, they're on Franklin Road,
They're on Franklin Road. And we got to that location. I think the dispatcher was already able to call them and say we were en route with a wounded police dog. We got there, and I was able to, my dog and I were laying in the back seat. Mm-hmm. And, the only thing I could do was just kept telling him, I'm going to get you help. I'm going to get you help. Told him that I love him. Because, you get to that feeling because these dogs are so close to you, and I love my dogs. Anybody over in Canine will tell you, there's nobody that loves their dogs more than I do. But we got him to the vet, and we took him in, and the doctor there looked at him, and I could see in her face, and I could see from his reactions, the dog's reactions, that it wasn't real good. But she kept looking at him. I had some firemen that were there, and they were doing chest compressions on him because he had stopped breathing. And she told me that I was going to have to step out. And that really hurt to leave him like that. But probably after about 5 minutes, Dr. Sandifer, which is the vet there, came out and said he didn't make it. Turns out he had been shot twice in the chest, and one basically severed his jugular vein. That it wouldn't matter if we were 10 yards from the vet or 100 miles, that he wasn't going to be able to survive.
Yeah.
So that was the last time I saw him, and I think about this all the time. Every time I ride by that Berry Hill vet, and I look at that one particular window that I see there, and I think about it every time I ride by there. I think about it's the last place I held him, the last place I told him I loved him. And like I say, he passed away there on that table.
That's terrible here. And just on that same note, his role that day, how do you think that he did? I mean, I know you said he did his job exactly. How do you think his role in that incident affected the rest of the officers that were there?
I think anybody that had any kind of a heart saw how he came back out of those woods. I think it affected everybody there. Good or bad. I mean, there was a news station was right down the road. Whenever this one went out, they were doing another story. So whenever they came up there, they were able to start from the time we started to the time we got him out of there. So I think that affected a lot of people. I know it affected the rest of my career in Canine, about how I approached things, how I looked at things, how I did things. That was just they call it baptism by fire. I mean, I was right in there, just brand new in my career, and this happened. And there was, several weeks there that I went back and forth. My wife and I went back and forth, do I want to continue to do this again? And there were times I said no, and then, I don't know, I told my wife, I said, this has been my dream. I can't just, I can't let it go. So I did, but it affected a lot of people.
So while all this is going on, there at the scene, they still got the suspect out there.
Yeah.
You've been you went with your dog. Did you go to Vanderbilt after that too? Or?
Yeah, that was Art. Art Danner was driving it, and he kept telling me, I'm taking you to Vanderbilt. And it was a kind of a little bit of an argument there between me and him. No, get me to the vet.
Yeah.
So once I got to the vet, I knew I wasn't hurt real bad. So once I got to the vet and got everything situated, I went from there, went to Vanderbilt. And it's like you say, I knew that the suspect was still in the woods. When I left that location, I knew he was in there, and I knew that was really about all that I knew. I didn't know if he was down. Turns out, they did a lot of negotiating with him, and he continued to fire even when the negotiators were there.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to go ahead and play, do clip 10 and 11. We'll skip to those there.
180 to command. 10, go. Suspect is still in the woods. We're talking to him now over the PA. He's still in our location where the officer was hit. Hey, 103, we've made contact with the suspect. Give us some time. Keep it quiet. 3810 to all personnel on the interstate. SWAT team is about to move up this embankment. So just get you plenty of cover and concealment and just stand by.
All right, so SWAT team's there. I've got a very little amount of info as to what happened after SWAT got there. The recordings for the tapes kind of play off from there. Granted, SWAT usually works off their own channel. They're not on the regular dispatch channel, so a lot of that we wouldn't have heard anyway. What happened to the suspect after SWAT went in after him?
Okay, and this is, after everything was done, of course, like I say, I was away from the scene, but I talked to the SWAT officers and the other canine handlers that were there. It was made, a determination was made that he's still continuing to fire. They had to do something with him. So we had another handler there, Alan Harold, with his dog, which Alan's dog back years ago was killed in the same situation in a bank robbery. And Alan was a really experienced handler. He had his dog Cliff, very good dog. So it was determined that Alan would lead the way going back through, and he would have 3 SWAT officers with him. And as they approached kind of the same location and started to go in, fortunately, Alan saw him move, and Alan hollered at him, "There he is," and the guy started shooting again. Actually, Alan was also hit. Also, it grazed under his arm, hit him there. But it's like I say, the SWAT officer that was right behind him saw him, so he started engaging the suspect, firing back, and then we had 2 other SWAT officers that were coming down from another side toward him, and they all saw him about the same time. And the guy refused to put his weapon down, refused to quit shooting. SWAT into the situation and took the suspect out.
Good.
Yeah, that's one thing that, especially in a situation like that, you've got someone who's has no regard. I mean, granted, he's a bank robber, but there's one thing about going into a bank and handing a note over and not being violent. But you up the ante like that, you've shot at police, you shot one of their dogs, you got the public all around there, and continue shooting even afterwards. When we're police trying to negotiate a surrender from him, he can continue shooting. I mean, I've got no problem with that at all. With
to this day, I believe that he had the intentions of dying that day.
Mm-hmm.
He had every opportunity to come out, and it's like, say, the amount of ammunition that he carried up, where even whenever he was taken down, he still had 30-round magazines with him that hadn't even been fired yet. When you go up there to look at the location at where he was, of course, they had already moved him out, but I had seen some of the ID pictures. Now, this man had gone up there. He had waited on us to come up in there because he knew it was concealed weld, but he took the time out to take the money that he had, which was several thousands of dollars, and he spread it out in a fan all around him. And I think he just made a decision that was the day he was going to die. And I guess if that's what he wanted, that's kind of what he got.
Yeah.
Do I have any sympathy for him? No,
I wouldn't either.
I have no sympathy for him. He made his decision. He was a career criminal. He was a gangster disciple, gangbanger, been arrested so many times, and I think he came down here and he decided he was going to make his stand here, and it ended for him here.
Is he from a different city?
He was from Chicago.
Okay.
He was from Chicago and had been down here, and matter of fact, they're pretty sure that he was involved in 2 more murders that were here. They just weren't able to exactly, but they had good information that he was probably involved in the murders that happened just prior to this. So I think he decided to make his stand, and his stand ended that day.
Well, that's good. Like you said, no sympathy. I got none for him at all. None at all. So kind of last thing I wanted to touch on here, I also read that back in 2015 that there was a law created based on what happened that day with Aron and the sacrifice that he made. Can you tell us a little bit about that law that got put in?
In 2015, you had Officer Brett Spivey, who is a canine handler, or was before he went to the drug task force. He was a canine handler in Franklin. And he took it upon himself, which, you know, he knew a lot of influential people as far as in the House, the state senators and everything. So he started really pushing to get a law passed that would do more to protect the canine animals, the canines, horses, any type of federal or local. This one was more local.
Yeah.
To help any type of police animal. And like I say, he did a lot of work. He had a representative that pushed it, and it ended up getting passed and signed into law. At the time, it was called Aron's Law, and before that law went into effect, basically the death of a canine or injuring a canine or a police horse was basically just considered a misdemeanor. It was based on the value of the dog, which most of the time ended up being pled down to a misdemeanor if they did that. After that happened, it went to a Class C felony, and that was signed into law as Aron's Law. Now, here locally, well, here in Tennessee, they just had another canine that was shot, and I'm trying. Canine Joker. He was shot in the line of duty, and they had a senator, politician that really pushed to get Joker's Law passed, and that even upped the felony, you know, the punishment more. Only thing I hate about it, this, you know, I'm partial to my
Well, yeah,
dog.
of course, yeah.
And, you know, I never wanted my dog to be forgotten. So whenever that law was attached to that particular law, I was really proud of that for the sacrifice that he did for the city and, you know, for me and my wife. And so I got to admit, when this new one came up or whatever, there was a little bit of, hey, you're forgetting about my dog. You know, my dog paid the ultimate sacrifice. You know, I'm so happy for Joker, you know, that he's alive, that he's able to be with his handler. And, you know, just the fact that even Joker's Law was able to take Aron's Law and make it even stricter than what it was, that's a good deal to me.
And that's another thing too, just kind of how you were saying. That's one of the reasons I thought about doing this episode, because, you know, even as I was looking back trying to do some research on the incident and everything, there wasn't as much out there as there used to be.
Yeah.
And I don't want, this is an important piece of history from Nashville. It's an important piece of history for the, you know, Metro Nashville Police Department. And this happened before all the new people to Nashville really got there. So
Yeah.
I imagine most people never even heard of it that live in Nashville now. And I don't want the memory of Aron to go away. I want this to stick around and people to know about it.
Well, I genuinely appreciate that.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Now, that was one of the things that I told my wife just right after his funeral, after we had his funeral, that, you know, if there's anything I could do, I'm not going to ever let his name be forgotten here. I don't care if they forget about me. That's nothing. You know, that doesn't, but I want people to remember what my dog did, what he sacrificed, that kept me alive, that kept other officers, my backup officer, alive. He did what he was trained to do, and sometimes these things happen. I know that, and it's like I say, like I told you earlier, that after that particular incident, you know, to begin with, I was new with him. I was brand new, so I didn't know the ins and outs of a lot of it. But after that, you know, I learned so much more when I started running tracks, you know, with my dog. You know, I probably ran my tracks a lot slower than a lot of handlers do. And that was not only because I was older, but it was because I had been involved in that situation. And I know sometimes it's not best to be fast. It's best to be slow and methodical. So I tried to make that my way of working a dog for the next 19 and a half years after that. So that's how I ended up working my dogs.
And you retired here, not too recent, was it?
It's 2017.
Okay,
And
2017.
I told my wife, I said, the only thing I want to do is I want to be able to retire from canine. And, there was a hiccup right at the end, right there. My fourth dog that I worked, Belgian Malinois, beautiful dog, Rico, we'd worked together for probably about 8 months, and he tore his ACL. And, of course, I was getting older, and, if anybody that's been around police dogs knows how hard the training is. So I did actually have one person that thought that I wasn't capable of training another dog. And it was kind of like I told my wife, said, I'm not going to go down like this. So I fought to stay in that unit. I trained my last dog there, no problem. Matter of fact, I retired with him. When I left here, he's laid up on the couch, taking it easy, enjoying life. So I feel very fortunate to be able to live my dream as far as being a canine handler and being able to retire as a canine handler.
Well, I just want to thank you again for coming to today. It's a good little trip down from Nashville and everything like that. So thank you for all that you've done for Nashville, for canines in general. I mean, really. And like I said, it's something I don't want to go away. The memory doesn't need to slip away.
Well, I appreciate it. And I hope that people, I know that there's, has been a lot of ups and downs as far as law enforcement, but these guys and girls out here doing this job now, I have just the utmost respect for them, because they're coming on at a time that I didn't have to deal with back whenever I came on. And they're getting out there and they're doing the best they can. So I appreciate you keeping things kind of focused on them too.
Oh yeah, always. I've always said I'm pro police, and just I was saying in the parking lot too, I'm pro police, but I'm also pro good police.
Good police. And that's another thing that my wife and I, she said when we came in, there's nobody that hates a dirty cop more than a good police officer.
That's right.
Because it makes everybody here. And then again, the same thing, I appreciate the job you do, because you were my lifeline. People like you working up in the communications, you were there for us, when we needed things. I needed you all that day, and you did an excellent job, and I appreciate the work that y'all did.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And also, while we're on the realm of thanking people, thanks, Trent, from Spread the Positive for having us in today. As I said before, if you haven't, go and like his Facebook page. Contact him if you have thought about doing a podcast, your local Middle Tennessee area. Come down here, check out a studio, come roll an episode.
Yes, sir.
Do all that. Trent, anything you wanted to add in there?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Terry, and long live Aron. Got me boo-hooing over here. As a dogs over people person, man, he got me in my feels for sure. But Brandon, I appreciate this. Terry, thank you for everything, your service, for your dedication, for your passion, all that stuff, man. It's extremely inspiring, man. So appreciate you.
Thank you much.
Yep. I wanted to finish this episode out by saying thank y'all that tuned in live to watch us there in studio on Facebook, and wanted to add that the full phone call that came in, the 911 call, even though it was pretty bad quality, as well as the full radio traffic for this incident, will be uploaded as bonus content on Patreon. If you're not a member yet, jump over there and sign up and get ad-free episodes as well as this huge bonus content. This is a lot of audio, and just by listening to the recordings, you can see how it plays out from start to finish with even more detail. Just keep in mind, these recordings came from all the way back in the 1900s. It doesn't seem like that long ago now, but it was over 24 years ago. Follow on all social media, and of course, share the show, and especially this episode, with anyone that will listen. Let's not let the memory of Aron fade away. For Music City 911, I'm Brandon, and y'all have a good one.